The envelope landed on the conference table with a soft thud that somehow sounded louder than it should have. I stared at it, cream-colored and official, my name printed in corporate font across the front. Amanda sat across from me, her hands folded neatly on the table, her expression carefully arranged into something that might pass for concern if you didn't know better. "Mark," she said, her voice smooth as rehearsed dialogue, "we want to thank you for your 8 years of service to Midstate Logistics." Past tense. Wanted. I caught it immediately. To her left sat Ryan, 24 years old and wearing a smile he was trying very hard to hide. He wasn't even pretending to look sorry. He was enjoying this. "We've made the difficult decision to restructure the operations department," Amanda continued, sliding the envelope closer to me. "Your position is being eliminated. The severance package inside is quite generous. We just need your signature today to process everything smoothly." I looked at the envelope, looked at Amanda's perfectly neutral face, looked at Ryan, who'd stopped trying to hide his grin. This wasn't a meeting. This was an execution dressed up in polite corporate language. My hands wanted to shake. My voice wanted to rise. 8 years of loyalty, of staying late, of fixing everyone else's mistakes, and this was how it ended? In a windowless conference room with fake sympathy and a severance check? But I didn't shake. I didn't shout. I pushed the envelope back across the table and signed. "You should have waited until the audit was done," I said quietly. Amanda's smile flickered. "Just for a second. But I saw it. Let me back up. 8 years ago, I started at Midstate Logistics as an operations coordinator. Nothing glamorous. I tracked shipments, managed schedules, made sure trucks went where they were supposed to go when they were supposed to go there. The company wasn't huge, maybe 200 employees total, but it was steady work in a town where steady work mattered. I was good at my job. Better than good. I was the guy people called when something broke. System down at 2 a.m.? Mark will fix it. Client screaming about a missed delivery? Mark will smooth it over. I never missed a day. Never complained. I just showed up and did the work. My coworkers respected that. Management noticed. HR started calling me dependable in performance reviews, which I figured was corporate speak for, "We take you for granted, but in a good way." I felt safe. Stupid looking back. But I genuinely believed that loyalty mattered, that hard work would be rewarded, that doing things right would protect you. Then Amanda Rhodes arrived, and I learned how wrong I was. Amanda showed up 6 months ago with crisp suits, perfect hair, and a vocabulary full of words like synergy and optimization. She was our new operations manager, hired from outside to modernize the department. On her first day, she gathered everyone in the break room and gave a speech about innovation and fresh perspectives. She smiled a lot, talked about how excited she was to learn from all of us, how we were a team, how she valued our experience. I believed her. I actually believed her. She asked me specifically to train her on our systems. Spent 2 weeks shadowing me, taking notes, asking questions. She called me a rock and the backbone of this operation. Said she didn't know what the department would do without me. I found out later she was telling upper management I was too old school and resistant to change. But I didn't know that yet. I was still drinking the poison and thinking it was water. Ryan showed up a month after Amanda. She introduced him at a team meeting as a temporary analyst who'd be helping with process improvements. He was 24, fresh out of college, and had that confidence only people who've never failed can have. "Mark, I'd love for you to show Ryan the ropes," Amanda said, smiling at me like she was doing me a favor. "Your experience combined with his fresh perspective will be powerful." So I trained him, showed him how our tracking system worked, how to handle client escalations, how to read the compliance logs that kept us out of trouble with federal regulators. He took notes, nodded a lot, asked good questions. Seemed eager to learn. Within 3 weeks, he was presenting my process improvements in meetings as his own ideas. Using my exact phrasing, my specific examples, even my metaphors. He'd just change a word or two and claim credit. The first time it happened, I laughed it off. New guy trying to impress management. It was annoying but harmless. The second time, I mentioned it to Amanda. She said something about collaborative environment and shared victories. The third time, I started paying attention to who Ryan really was. And more importantly, whose nephew he was. Amanda's sister's kid. Family. That's when I realized I was training my own replacement. The promotion was promised in January. I'd been doing senior-level work for 2 years without senior-level pay, and HR finally agreed it was time. Amanda supported it, or so she said. She even wrote a recommendation email that I saw copied in my review file. Mark has consistently exceeded expectations and demonstrates leadership qualities essential for advancement. The paperwork went to HR. They said it was in process. Weeks went by. The months. Every time I asked, I got the same answer. Still working through approvals. These things take time. By March, I stopped asking. In April, I overheard Ryan in the break room, talking to another analyst. Yeah, they're creating this new senior coordinator position. Basically running the whole operations flow. I'm pretty sure I'm getting it. My position. The one I'd been promised. Under a slightly different title so they could pretend it wasn't the same job. That night, I logged into the internal HR portal. Found the requisition number. My promotion request had been marked, withdrawn due to budget constraints. Ryan's new position had been approved 2 weeks later. Same budget code. Same salary range. They'd killed mine to create his. The team meeting was on a Tuesday. Amanda stood at the front of the room with a slide presentation about process optimization initiatives. Ryan sat beside her, looking proud. I want to recognize Ryan's innovative approach to our tracking workflows, Amanda said, clicking a slide that showed a flowchart I'd drawn 3 months ago. His initiative has resulted in a 15% efficiency gain. The room applauded. People actually clapped. For my work, presented by someone else, while I sat in the back row watching. Ryan gave a little humble nod. Thanks, everyone. Just trying to bring some fresh thinking to the table. Fresh thinking. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing my lungs. But I didn't say anything. I just nodded when people looked at me, smiled like I was happy for the team, and went back to my desk. That's when I started saving everything. Every email, every project file, every draft document with my name and timestamp on it. I created a folder on my personal laptop, backed up to 3 different drives. I was quiet, but now I was watching. Amanda's strategy became clear over the next 2 months. She was rewriting history, 1 meeting at a time. Missed deadline on the Henderson account? Mark's oversight. System glitch that delayed shipments? Mark's outdated methods. Client complaint about communication? Mark's inability to adapt to new protocols. She started scheduling coaching sessions every other week. Private meetings where she'd close the door, lean forward with fake concern, and tell me I needed to be more flexible and open to change. I'm worried about your future here, Mark, she said during one session, her voice dripping with false sympathy. The company is evolving. I need to know you can evolve with it. I knew what she was doing. Building a paper trail. Creating a narrative that would justify my firing. Every coaching session was documented, filed with HR, used to paint me as the problem. But here's what she didn't know. I was documenting too. Recording dates, times, topics discussed. Saving the original emails that contradicted her version of events. Building my own paper trail that told a very different story. I found an ally in an unexpected place. Lacey worked in payroll, quiet and easy to overlook. We'd say hello in the hallway, nothing more. One day in June, she pulled me aside in the parking lot. Can I talk to you about something? We sat in her car. She looked nervous. Amanda's done this before, Lacey said. At her last company. She brings in family, pushes out the old guard, manipulates records to cover it up. I've seen the personnel files. There were complaints, but they disappeared from the system. HR never saw them. Why are you telling me this? Because you're next, and you seem like a decent person. She handed me a flash drive. These are copies of expense reports Amanda submitted. Look at the dates, then look at Ryan's hire date. She was planning this before she even met you. I went home and looked at the files. Amanda had marked the budget for a new senior position in her very first month before I'd even trained her on our systems. This wasn't about my performance. It never was. This was about making room for Ryan. In July, Amanda scheduled my performance review. The metrics she used were wrong. Deliberately wrong. She credited mistakes to me that Ryan had actually made and gave him credit for projects I'd completed alone. As you can see, she said, sliding the review form across the desk, there are some concerns we need to address. I'll need you to sign acknowledging you've received this feedback. I read it carefully. Every line was designed to build a case for termination. I signed acknowledged Turner at the bottom. Not agreed. Not accept. Just acknowledged that I'd seen it. Don't you want to add any comments? Amanda asked. I'll submit those separately, I said, through proper HR channels. Her smile tightened. That afternoon, I submitted a formal rebuttal with email evidence contradicting every claim. I also filed it with corporate compliance, not just local HR. Lacey whispered to me the next day, keep copies of everything. I mean everything. I did. I also did something else. Something I'd been preparing for weeks. Our company was subject to federal logistics compliance audits every 2 years. The next one was scheduled for September. The audit required access to detailed tracking records, and our system required administrator authentication for certain reports. I was one of 2 people with that level of access. Amanda was the other, but she'd never actually learned the system. She'd relied on me to pull reports when she needed them. In August, I quietly created an automated process that would require my specific authentication code for the compliance reports. Not Ryan's. Not Amanda's. The system would look for my approval signature in the background of every critical document. I also created backups of all compliance data on a secure server only I knew how to access. Nothing was deleted, nothing was changed. Just protected. If they fired me before the audit, they'd have a problem. A big federal regulation-sized problem. The call from HR came on a Monday. Can you meet with Amanda on Wednesday? Just a follow-up conversation about department structure. I knew what that meant. The final week was here. I started noticing Ryan sitting in on meetings he had no business attending. Confidential client reviews. Budget planning sessions. Things that required management-level clearance he didn't have. Amanda was grooming him publicly, showing everyone he was the heir apparent. Showing me I was already gone in everyone's minds but my own. On Tuesday night, I backed up everything one more time. My evidence folder was organized by date, by person, by incident. Every falsified report. Every stolen idea. Every policy violation. All of it time-stamped, cross-referenced, and backed up to 3 different locations. I slept surprisingly well that night. Wednesday morning. Conference room B. Amanda and Ryan waiting. The envelope. The rehearsed speech. The fake sympathy. Your position is being eliminated. I pushed the envelope back. You should have waited until the audit was done. I stood up and walked out, leaving them sitting there with their unsigned severance agreement and their confused faces. I went home and waited. The panic call came 2 days later. Friday morning. Amanda's number on my personal phone. Mark, hi, I know this is awkward, but we're having a small technical issue with the compliance system. It's probably nothing, just a glitch, but could you possibly? You fired me, Amanda. Remember? Well, we said your position was eliminated, but technically your last day isn't until. I signed nothing. I have no official end date. And I no longer have access to company systems. You revoked my credentials Wednesday afternoon. I got the automated email. Silence. Could you just tell me how to access the audit reports? Maybe walk someone through it? That would be providing work services without a formal employment agreement. My lawyer says that's a bad idea. Your lawyer? Talk to your legal department, Amanda. I'm sure they'll figure it out. I hung up. That's when the real panic started. By Monday, corporate headquarters was involved. The audit was in 3 weeks, and they couldn't access the compliance database. IT tried for 2 days and kept hitting authentication errors. Then IT discovered something else. Unauthorized user access in the system. Someone without proper clearance had been pulling confidential reports. The access was traced to Ryan's login credentials. Amanda tried to blame him. Said he must have made a mistake, accessed the wrong files. Ryan, panicking, said Amanda told him to pull those reports, that she'd given him her password to speed things up. Giving your admin password to a subordinate. Direct violation of data security policy. HR started an investigation. Not into me. Into them. I sat at home with my evidence folder organized on my dining room table, drinking coffee and waiting for the next call. The call came Tuesday. Not Amanda. The HR director from corporate, a woman named Patricia I'd never spoken to before. Mr. Turner, we need to clarify some documentation regarding the operations department. Would you be willing to come in and discuss? I'd be happy to cooperate, but I'll need my lawyer present for any formal discussions. And I'll need my severance agreement in writing before I provide any assistance with company systems. Long pause. I see. We'll have our legal team reach out to coordinate. Looking forward to it. I hung up and smiled. They realized I was untouchable now. They needed me more than I needed them. That's when Ryan broke. Completely fell apart under the pressure of the investigation. He sent an email to HR, accidentally copying half the department, admitting that Amanda had told him to adjust some data entries to match expectations. That she'd said it was normal, just cleaning up errors, that everyone did it. Adjusting audit data. That wasn't a fireable offense. That was a criminal offense. Corporate security got involved. Amanda's whole narrative unraveled. Every claim she'd made about my performance, every coaching session, every negative review, all of it started looking like the setup it was. HR, terrified of a wrongful termination lawsuit, tried to negotiate quietly. I waited. On Thursday, I sent corporate a document. 20 pages. Neatly organized. Professional language. No emotion, just facts. Data integrity discrepancies under Amanda Rhodes' management. It included email timestamps showing Ryan claiming my work. Original drafts with my name proving authorship. Documentation of falsified performance reviews. Evidence of budget manipulation. Lacey's expense report data showing premeditation. Logs showing unauthorized data access. It was damning, but it was calm, methodical, factual. I wasn't vengeful. I was meticulous. Corporate legal called within 48 hours. We'd like to discuss a settlement. The meeting was in the same conference room where Amanda had tried to fire me. This time, I sat across from 2 corporate lawyers and the regional HR director. No Amanda. No Ryan. I named my terms. Full severance package based on 10 years of service, not 8. Health coverage for 2 years. Neutral reference letter signed by the CEO. Written apology acknowledging procedural errors in my performance reviews. And one more thing. Amanda and Ryan were removed from their positions before I signed anything. They agreed to everything. The lawyers tried to make me sign an NDA. I crossed it out and initiated the change. I won't pursue legal action, but I won't be silenced either. Take it or leave it. They took it. Amanda's resignation was announced on a Friday. Pursuing other opportunities. Ryan stepped down the following Monday. Quiet, no announcement, just gone. My severance check arrived by courier. The amount made my hands shake, more than I'd make in 2 years of regular salary. 3 days later, I got a call from Bradley Logistics, Mid-State's biggest competitor. They'd heard through industry contacts about a situation at Mid-State. We've been impressed by how you handled a difficult position, the hiring manager said. We need someone with your integrity. Are you interested? The offer was 40% more than I'd been making. Better title. Actual respect. I started 2 weeks later. On my first day at Bradley, the CO pulled me aside. We know what happened at Mid-State. We've seen it before. People like Amanda think they can burn the experienced workers and replace them with cheap labor. Usually they get away with it. He shook my hand. Thanks for being the exception. The work was similar but better. Better systems, better people, better culture. People who valued experience instead of resenting it. I heard through the industry grapevine that Midstate failed their audit, got hit with federal penalties and lost their biggest contract. Amanda's modernization had cut corners that mattered, and it all came apart without someone who actually knew the systems holding it together. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just moved forward. 6 months later, I drove past the old Midstate building. The parking lot was half empty. They'd laid off 40% of staff after the penalties hit. I thought about Amanda, about Ryan, about that conference room and that envelope. They thought firing me quietly would make me disappear. They thought I was just another middle-aged worker they could erase without consequences. They forgot that people like me don't vanish. We leave records. We build systems. We know where the bodies are buried because we're the ones who dug the graves. I didn't destroy them. I didn't sabotage anything. I just stopped protecting them from their own incompetence. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do. It's what you stop doing. They tried to end me in silence. But I became the noise they couldn't ignore. And that noise echoed louder than any severance check, any title, any corporate memo could ever silence. I won by simply being too good at my job to disappear.